All right, good morning, everybody. We had a little bit of data come out on the pre-market. We had the core retail sales. It came out at negative 0.3. They were looking for positive 0.2, so a little bit low there. Retail sales, negative 0.9 over negative 0.5. Import prices, 0% over negative 0.2. Cap rate, a little bit low. Industrial production, a little bit low as well. Those are all fairly low impact data prints, so not really a big deal there. I didn't see anything significant overnight with the headlines with Israel and Iran, just kind of the same back and forth stuff we've been seeing. People were anticipating a major escalation with the United States joining because Trump left the G7 early, and he was requesting that his Security Council be ready when he got back. But from what I've seen, I haven't seen any major escalation from the headlines. It doesn't seem like the US has been directly involved yet. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on those. What else is on the calendar today? We have 10 a.m. business inventories, housing index at 10 a.m. as well, and then that is pretty much it. Yeah, I didn't see that one, Freeman. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Let me double check the rates. Yeah, the market is pricing in a 0.2% chance of a rate cut, so I don't really know where he's getting that information from. That would be probably one of the largest shocks the Fed has given us in a very long time. All right, looking at our trade plan on ES here, holding above 82, which is yesterday's value low. We're going to look for 102, the value high, and then 140, which is a very old level going all the way back to February, which is also a value level as well. Holding below 51, which is the value high of Thursday, which we have already filled in, but we haven't tested it on the cash hours. So holding below 51, we're going to look for 21. I think that was supposed to be 24. Let me double check here. Yeah, that should be 24. Let me fix that here. And then below that, we're going to look for either the value high of Friday, which is going to be around 11, or the full retrace of the rollover down to 81. The current shape is slightly a lowercase b. You could say it's a D shape as well. The lowercase b is more kind of tied to a little bit of yesterday's sell-off. So we kind of have a bearish bias from selling off from that high. But if we don't hold below that 51, you're probably just going to chop back and forth. Okay, NASDAQ holding above value low of yesterday, 115, looking for the value high, 221. Old value level at 280. Holding below 966, same level from before, Thursday's value high. We're going to look for Thursday's value low, 866. And then the rollover level at 653, same thing. You could target that value high of Friday as well, which is pretty much the same level as the weekly open. But if we're going to go down that far, we probably want to target that rollover. All right, let me post that on YouTube for you guys. All right, here you guys go. There's the trade plan for today. Let's take a quick look at oil. Bitcoin not moving too much. Oil is very flat. And gold is also very flat. Not a lot of movement today. Market is very calm today. Not a lot of movement at all. Mark out a few levels to keep an eye on oil here. Looks like we're using that prior point of origin as a resistance, and this point of origin around the 27th of March as a support here. Yeah, with how crazy this week is, I mean, I definitely could see it happening. Like if they want to throw a wrench in everyone's plan, if they want to cut rates, but it would be just insanely outlandish. They would piss a lot of people off. And I don't think oil goes with that theory that they want to cut rates this week to combat like inflation or whatever, right? Because oil's not even spiking that much on this crisis that everybody thought that oil would be double what it is now. And oil would obviously spike inflation quite a bit if oil was skyrocketing, but it isn't. It's doing a damn good job being pretty steady. It's gone up quite a bit over the last month or so. But since the conflict like ramped up, it's only gone up like 10, maybe 15%. 20% on the high, pulled back. Okay, very bullish open. We saw this, I think it was yesterday as well, pretty much right out of the gate. We'll see if they can actually hold on to this momentum here. Bank of Japan had their rate decision yesterday, or I think technically today, and they are holding their rates steady. So not threatening that yen carry trade. Israel said that they just completed a wave of attacks on Iran a short time ago, so probably won't see any headlines about them attacking anytime soon. Putting in a bullish cluster here at 69 to 70. Needs to hold above 82. Good morning, everybody. Monashima, Leo, Tachi, Morris, Rick, and Billy. Morning, German, Seth. I pinned the trade plan for you guys. There you go. Good morning, Christian. Andre, Backpack and SW, Eugenio, Jose, Larry. Good morning, Scott, Ordinary. Shay, Trevor, Future. It's You. Gregor's, Nitro, AT, LDM, Techie, Bacon, Roman. Good morning, Simon. Good morning, Suzanne, Robert, Unleashed, DS. Still getting a decent amount of bullish delta here. Not really liking these prior highs here. Prior highs being sold a little bit. Good morning, Olive, TK, Cotton, Tamer. Onyx, Sil, Trent, JQ, C-Mac, Sebastian. Appreciate you guys being here. Good morning. By the way, sorry, no recap yesterday. Like I said, I'm going to try to aim for like 3 recaps a week. I'm not going to do them every single day like we did on the first week. Mainly if there's a lot of stuff to recap, we're going to be going over it. Yesterday was really just like a 1 to 2 trade day. You had 1 to 2 patterns, and they were basically news related. There really wasn't a whole lot to cover yesterday. The main move up was related to the Wall Street Journal headline. The main move down was pretty much the same thing. It was just going against the Wall Street Journal headline. Yeah, I'm going to aim for like 3 a week instead of 5 a week. I think it'd be a little oversaturated if I do them every single day. Hopefully we have some more clean movement today. I can make one today. Good morning, Angelo, Mark, OP. Liquidity still pretty low here. A lot of blue orders. We're seeing about 20 to 30 contracts per tick on the level 1. I don't put anything on my site, Larry. They're all just on YouTube. So you'll just see them in the normal videos tab on YouTube. My YouTube is pretty simple. It's either the live streams, they're in the live tab, or they're in the videos tab. And then I break them down to playlist if they're like teaching videos. The recap videos aren't really what I would consider teaching videos, so I just leave them on the videos. A lot of bearish delta here. A little bit of a bulldog on the pre-market that's not really getting a ton of buy pressure here. Good morning, Adam. So far, it seems like it's going to be a calm day. Now, that might be a jinx, but we'll see. Not seeing a whole lot of movement on the headlines. Yesterday was so weird because we were expecting a massive attack from Iran. We were expecting possibly the US to get involved with all the headlines that were coming out. And we had all those headlines coming out just pushing the tension higher and higher and higher. And then just nothing happened. So very strange. Good morning, Mauricio. All right, keep an eye on the VWAP here. VWAP at 63 being retested. A lot more bearish delta on ES than there is on NQ. NQ trying to put in a higher low here. Unfortunately, there's not too much tape reading we can do this week with how many headlines we're getting. When the tape is seeing a lot of level 2, lack of liquidity, it's a lot harder to read. Being one day out from the Fed meeting, probably going to be a sticky day just waiting for that decision. We have that D-shape inside chop right now. We're stuck in like a, what was a value kind of dead zone. Had a lot of value down here, a lot of value up here, not really a lot of value here. And now we're fixing that problem. That was last week's value. So if we hold like this, we're looking pretty strong to the upside on the higher time frames. A lot of buyers stepping in here. A lot of buyers protecting VWAP, 63. They need to hold above 82, or it doesn't really matter here. You're just kind of chopping back and forth. Yeah, if they can hold this pullback, this doesn't look too bad for the higher time frame guys. Similar pattern to what we've seen pretty much the entire way up these last few weeks. This vertical kind of chop higher. Building a lot of value, trying to break, don't have enough to stay up, so you pull back, bounce off the value, and then continue higher. Very similar to what happens in a 1-minute chart during a vertical distribution. We're basically seeing it on a daily chart. Basically, since I would say, I mean, you could go even farther back and say back in like April. But this most recent move, since like May 23rd, we're definitely in a vertical chop here. Where the aggressive buyers are failing every single time and pulling back. But the responsive buyers are buying everything up. Tape is getting pretty green around that 70 area and 67, but unfortunately, they are being absorbed. NASDAQ bouncing between the VWAPs. Bounced off the session VWAP, failed the daily VWAP. Now we're failing the session VWAP. Tape is turning very red now. A lot of sellers at 66 and below. Doesn't look terrible until they hold below this 51 level here. At this point, that entire Wall Street Journal headline has been retraced. That came out around 79. How's oil reacting to this headline? Not moving too much. There's a headline from Qatar Energy directing its vessels to stay outside of the Gulf until a day before loading. Sources indicating they should otherwise wait near the Strait of Hormuz. So possibly some threats in the Gulf. Yeah, those tanker plays that we were looking at, they've already recovered the sell-off from yesterday. Unfortunately, we might be a little late on those tanker plays. We would need a pretty deep correction. And at this stage in the conflict, it almost seems like it might be a little late. Yeah, I saw that solo, but I think that was fake. I saw a couple of headlines about that, and a couple were saying that it wasn't true. But I am not sure. Very small range today, only trading a 6 TPO opening range. I wouldn't say their market structures are entirely different, but NASDAQ is just more volatile, right? We do have a lower low here on ES, but look at how much lower it is on NASDAQ. And it's being swept on ES, and also NASDAQ is hitting this prior low, which is also being swept. So a bit stronger on the downside here. Oh, gotcha, Solo. So they collided. They weren't actually being attacked. Yeah, my worry with like the tanker play that we talked about is I don't even think that Iran would be capable of like holding on to that threat in the Gulf right now. It doesn't seem like it. Like it seemed like if they threatened the Gulf, it would just be a swift end to the war, but who knows? I also don't really understand the play. I was talking about this with some of my other trading buddies. I don't really understand the play of threatening the Gulf because the most oil that's coming out of the Gulf is going to China, and China's like one of their, I don't know if you'd call them allies, but China is one of their best buddies, I guess you would say. They'd almost be hurting their quote-unquote allies more than they'd hurt anybody else. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they actually do threaten the Gulf. The biggest problem is they have a lot of sea mines. And if they mine the Gulf even a little bit, if it destroys one ship, that makes the insurance companies not want to insure the ships going through the Gulf. And just simply that would stop the travel through the Gulf, right? That will be a big that'll be a big headline regardless, even if it's like one ship being damaged. It will have a pretty major impact. Oil is spiking right now, actually, speaking of it. Trying to break this overnight high. Yeah, Trent, so my calendar, when I'm reading the economic data, I'm using Forex Factory. And then for my timeline, if you follow my Twitter, just go to my list. Twitter has like a list function where you can kind of make your own timeline. And my list is filled with all the news providers. It's not like the mainstream stuff like Fox and CNN and CNBC and that. I don't follow that stuff. They're like the financial news providers, the ones that post like financial headlines. Like Redbox, Walter Bloomberg, First Squawk, Zero Hedge, Financial Juice, Unusual Whales, all that stuff. Morning, Crypto. Good morning. Who else is in here? 2013. Good to see you. Failing the back test of VWAP here. A lot of bullish delta coming in, but it's not going anywhere. Look at how green that tape is. A lot of bullish delta at 63 and 65, 66. And they're being rejected right now. Hey, Gary, you said you finally passed your buffer. What do you mean? Like on your paid account? You passed like your buffer for payouts? Yeah, customer would be the right word that I was looking for China for sure. I mean, a lot of the world is definitely going to be impacted. It's like 20 to 30% of the global supply of oil goes through that area. Big spike here. We'll see if the headline's coming out. No longer being absorbed. That tape is pretty green. A lot of buyers coming in at 66, 67. Some buyers at 70 here as well. I'm waiting to see if it's a headline. I don't really see a headline for it. Oh, I got you, Gary. Yeah, it's awesome, man. Yeah, it's always nice to have that little buffer in place. Now, if you're on Apex, they pretty much force you to have that buffer. Before they forced you, I told you guys to do that anyway, so it's good to have it. Still seeing absorption here. A lot of bullish delta coming in, 68 to 70. They tried to break out of that absorption, failed pretty much right away. It's definitely not a lack of buyer delta. There's tons of buyer delta. Just getting stuck. Why the footprint on the 30-minute? Just personal preference. Same thing as everything else in trading. The 30-minute is like the master time frame for volume profile, market profile, any kind of profile trading. The 30-minute is like the best time frame. We are getting a lot of chop here. Both VWAPs, the 8 EMA, the 24 EMA, the POC, pretty much every single level lining up in this 65 range. Trump administration said to consider crackdowns on pharmaceutical ads. Thank God. I think we're like one of the only countries on the planet that still allows pharmaceutical ads. I think in Europe, you guys got rid of pharmaceutical ads a long time ago. I remember it was a big thing in like Europe and in the UK. Yeah, Nitro. It's like every single ad, man. Every single ad's a pharmaceutical ad. It's insane. It's because they've got the big bucks. They pay the fees. You can't even remember when you still had them. Yeah, yeah. You guys got rid of them a long time ago. I mean, I quite literally just signed up for the ad-free version of Amazon Prime yesterday because I was so tired of seeing them. It's already affecting the stocks. Pfizer and ABBV hitting session lows. They are bouncing a little bit. Yeah, that's the problem with the pharmaceutical ads. Like half the commercial, you got to listen to what the drug is about. Then the other half, you got to listen to the side effects. Tanker collision near Iran. I think that was old news. We were just talking about it in Discord. I think that happened yesterday. This might be a watch the 5 minute kind of day. The 1 minute is pretty sloppy. And it might be a watch the 30 minute kind of day. The 5 minutes also kind of sloppy. Yeah, not to be a conspiracy theorist or anything, but that seems way too convenient that tankers are colliding in the the number one place they're being watched on the world right now. That seems a little convenient. I mean, you could also argue they're probably colliding because it's a stressful ass situation over there right now. And there's probably a backlog of ships. 70 to 75, getting a lot of buyers here. Very green cluster. They need to protect this cluster going from 70 down to like 67. That is a massive bullish cluster. Good morning, Joan. Is this a new collision, or are they just reporting on the collision that happened yesterday again? Okay, this headline makes sense. This headline says, two oil tankers collided off the Strait of Hormuz. The event does not appear to be security related, though navigation devices are being affected by scrambling due to the conflict in the Middle East. I didn't think about that. That makes sense. That checks out. Our housing index came out at 32 over 36, still pretty low. The housing index is one of those numbers that 50 is the baseline. So 50, above 50 is like a favorable market. We're at 32. That's pretty bad. Yeah, Frontline's one of the stocks. Is that who owns one of the tankers? Have they said which tankers they were? All of our tanker stocks are pushing up pretty hard today. They went down yesterday, but they've already recovered those sell-offs. Yeah, I believe it, Rocket. We're retesting that cluster right here. Needs to hold on to 67. You are just chopping out right now. This is the day before the FOMC. Not a whole lot going on the headlines today. So the market is just finding value that it likes and just sitting on that value. They refuse new orders? What do you mean? Like the tankers are refusing new orders? Oh, you mean like Frontline is not taking any new orders to go into that area? Good morning, Tom. Gotcha. Yeah, Rocket, some people are talking about that. Some people are talking about a possible rate cut tomorrow, a surprise. I mean, that would be that'd be more than a surprise. Right now, it's like a 99.9% chance that there is no cut, meaning the market is entirely priced in on there being no cut. Oh, and what's even funnier, Freeman, I just realized this. Nick Timmeros, the guy that you posted earlier, I'm pretty sure he works at the Wall Street Journal. So he's one of those journalists that like moving the market around. Now, to cut him some slack, he is one of the guys that typically asks pretty good questions when they do the press conferences on the Fed days. He typically has good questions. But yeah, I believe he is Wall Street Journal, so. Hey, Mark, have a good day, man. We'll see you tomorrow. Good morning, Chuck. To be honest, C-Mac, you don't really need any advice. It's extremely easy to set up. If you're familiar with order flow platforms, like you've already used NinjaTrader or like Quant Tower or any of those for a bit, you'll set up Addis in no time, man. It's really easy. It took me like less than an hour to figure it out. Yeah, what's funny, Freeman, is the market's not going to react to his tweet directly, but if they posted it as a Wall Street Journal tweet, it would probably react. Even though he is Wall Street Journal. Today is mostly just a waiting day, guys. We are waiting for tomorrow, the Fed meeting. Looks like we're trying to get out of this value area here. We need to hold above like 72. Nick is the unofficial mouthpiece of the Fed. Yeah, I think some people say that. Freeman was just saying that as well. Freeman was saying he's the mouthpiece of the Fed. Or what did you say? The Fed whisperer. Hey, if he's the only person calling for a cut tomorrow and it happens, I'll respect him a bit more. I'll respect the Wall Street Journal a bit more. We're seeing a consistent increase in liquidity. We're seeing a consistent increase in liquidity as price is rising. We've been seeing this the past few weeks. So they do like this higher value. Liquidity is going up quite a bit as you're rising here. It's almost double what it just was. Oh god, here we go again. Coinbase seeking US SEC approval to offer blockchain-based stocks. It's like the touch of death, the kiss of death for these crypto exchanges. At least they're doing it the right way and they're seeking approval before doing it. Seems like Wall Street Journal is getting the Kramer reputation. Well, funny enough, it's like the opposite. The Wall Street Journal it's like massively respected when their headlines come out. And then they have the Kramer effect where they're kind of faded afterwards. But yeah, I'm very surprised the market still respects their headlines. Because a lot of the times, like yesterday, their headlines just come out, they have their effect, a few hours go by, everyone says the headline was bullshit, goes back down. I think people respect them because they've had a couple of articles that come out, and then like the White House or like whoever the article is about, they'll be like, oh, that's not true. And then like 3 days later, it turns out it was true. So when the Wall Street Journal, when they are right, they're very right. Like they're days ahead of everybody else. But the problem is they're trying to be that person every time they put an article out. They're trying to be ahead of the curve. And to be ahead of the curve, a lot of the times they're just making shit up. Israel military saying that missiles have been launched from Iran. I haven't even looked at their options, Astro. Let me take a look. NAT is like a penny stock, so their options are going to be pretty volatile. Speaking of the Wall Street Journal, here is that level that we were that the article came out yesterday, around 79 to 85. Yeah, their options have absolutely no liquidity. I would not be trading their options, NAT. Let me take a look at a month out. Yeah, they have literally no liquidity. I wouldn't trade those. I'm surprised they even have options. FRO might be better. Yeah, FRO is tradable. If you trade like right at the money. They're still pretty bad. These tanker companies, they don't really have an options market. Mostly just a share play. Well, that's the problem with financial journalism right now. They can pretty much say whatever the hell they want, and they get away with it. And us as traders just have to deal with it, unfortunately. They're killing our positions or sometimes helping our positions, and then it just turns out to be fake. The problem with like financial journalism, even though it's like massively impacting the stock market, they can always just have excuses. They can come up with an excuse on why they weren't just fabricating it to move the stock market. Air raid sirens going off in Tel Aviv. Yeah, the headline yesterday, that was pretty outlandish. I'm surprised it took so long to recover that headline. All right, we are trying to break out of balance here. We need to stay above that 8 EMA, possibly the 24 EMA. Holding above this prior cluster around 70 to 68. A little bit of a node around 75 needs to be protected here. The reports are they only fired 5 to 10 missiles. I don't know why they would only fire 5 to 10 missiles. Supposedly, there was a headline this morning that Israel said they've taken out like half or over half of their missile launchers, which is probably why these attacks have been getting smaller and smaller. Or they're still preparing for that big attack, like they said. We definitely didn't see it yesterday. I think everybody was expecting a much larger attack yesterday. Good morning, Faraj. Good morning, Jazz. I don't know if they're running out of missiles. They have like thousands of missiles, I believe. I think the last estimate was like thousands. Now, most of them are the older missiles. But I don't know if they've fired thousands of them yet. I actually haven't seen any numbers on that, on like the estimated amount they've launched so far. Yeah, Cotton, I agree with that. Like, there's just so many headlines coming out in every way. Like I said, this week's just crazy in many regards, not just the Middle East crisis. The market can't really attach itself to one single headline. It is a crazy week. How's our rollover doing? Let's see, 105 to 54. It looks like it's getting pretty close to being completed. How much volume do we have on these older contracts? Oh yeah, the rollover is nearly completed. Look at this. 22,000, 9,000. compared to 105,000 and 57,000. Not even close. Yeah, exactly, Rocket. That's why you got to take all these war headlines with a grain of salt. It's the fog of war. You never know what to believe, who to believe. And that's always the hardest part as a trader is like we need to trust certain headlines, right? And the war headlines are very hard to trust. We saw the same thing with the Ukraine-Russia conflict. The market cares about it for the first couple of weeks, and then it just pretends like it's not even happening. The market stopped caring about the Russia and Ukraine crisis pretty quickly. And that's still going on, and the market does not care. Like, those headlines come out, it does not affect the market, like, whatsoever. And that's going to happen with this Israel and Iran crisis. If it does continue for a long period of time, the market's just not going to care anymore. Now, the oil market will probably still care. So if you want to track what's going on in the oil market with that crisis, you definitely can. But the stock market, once the initial fear, the initial shock gets out of people, the market doesn't care as much. I'd give it another week or two, maybe. Probably the end of next week. If it's still going on by the end of next week, the market's not going to be that sensitive to these headlines anymore. Good morning, JE. Not sure if I saw you earlier. Turning into a very slow vertical chop here. Keep an eye on these 24 EMAs, 74 and 104. We're failing that Wall Street Journal headline. It's more of a zone from like 79 to like 85 is where all that bullish delta was. If you look at it from yesterday, you can see what I mean here. A lot of delta. 79 up to like 84. You had a ton of bearish delta below it as well, which is kind of what we're being stuck on here. You can see that bearish cluster is kind of holding us down here. Iran's recent assault concludes with no reported damage. A lot of bullish delta coming in at 75. They're trying to not create single prints here. 30-minute candle closing in a couple of minutes. They have to keep it exactly where it is. 75 or below. We'll see if they try to push this next 30-minute candle up right as it closes. They have a pretty strong bearish node at the top of this candle they're going to have to get through. Yeah, Link, it's I don't really know how else to explain it, to be honest. It's just they're just completely different trades. Like, even though they're based on the same thing, you're trading, think of it as two different companies. There are two different companies that are completely based on the same thing. So everybody that's trading company A is only trading company A. It does not affect company B. The market on company A is isolated. People selling company A are selling company A. People who want to buy company A have to buy from the people selling company A. If you're selling company B and there's nobody buying company B, it doesn't matter if there are people buying company A. They're completely different instruments, even though they track the same thing. Volume and liquidity wise, they are their own markets. Well, there would have to be massive amounts of arbitrage or the market just wouldn't even exist. Retail traders would not be able to keep MES tied to ES. They don't have the kind of money. Those markets purely exist on arbitrage. Yeah, but once again, Link, it's because the delta on MES basically means nothing. Pretty much all indicators on the micro mean nothing. The market is going to move based on what it is derived from. That's why I tell you guys to, even if you're trading MES, you should be charting ES for pretty much everything. Hey, Jay, have a good day, man. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, it's a wait and see type of day. The market's just waiting. If you guys are trading micros like micro NASDAQ, micro ES, micro oil, whatever it may be, pretty much all of your analysis, your trade plan, your indicators, your order flow, I mean, you name it, it should be on the large contract. By the way, keep an eye on VWAP here. VWAP hits 70 coming up. Just stuck in a choppy balance for right now. Yeah, all of your, literally everything should be done on the large contract because that is what the small contract is being based off of. If there is a big block trade that comes in on ES, then the market is going to, let's say, move up on that block trade. The market's going to follow on MES. It doesn't matter if there's not a big block trade on MES. The market is still going to follow. And then vice versa is not really the case. If there's a really large block trade on MES, it is very rarely going to impact how ES moves. That's just somebody trying to get an order filled. MES does not dictate how ES moves. It's only vice versa. Now, there probably are some very rare scenarios that you could probably cherry pick and say that I'm wrong. But it's going to be extremely rare. The only time I would have like a micro on your screen is if you're trading a micro, you want to have like at least one chart where you can watch your trade. Like you can move your orders around and you kind of have your orders on the actual screen that you're looking at. Your entry, your exit, your stop. But all your analysis, all your indicators should be done on the larger contract. Just be very careful and don't accidentally take trades in the large contract. Now, a lot of brokers have settings in place that you can change that don't allow you to do that. You can make it so you're only permitted to trade what you want to trade. Like Tradeovate allows you to do that. Yeah, there's almost no purpose in charting and doing analysis on the micros. The only difference that you'll see consistently is if you're using high of day or low of day stops. Sometimes a high day and low of day will be hit on one of them and not hit on the other one. And that's purely because of liquidity. Sometimes the liquidity will be too strong on, say, ES to break that high of day. But the liquidity on MES is very weak, so it does break that high of day. So sometimes if you're using a high of day stop, then you're like, damn, you didn't even get there on ES, but I got stopped out on MES. You got to be careful on stuff like that. But yeah, in the nicest way possible, these are things that you guys should already know. You guys should not be putting a lot of money into the futures market without understanding the difference between the micro and the large contract. It's like needing to understand the tick value of contracts and the point value of contracts and like what are margin rates and all that, like all the basics that go into like the futures market itself. You guys need to understand that stuff before you start diving head first to the futures market. It's like when you're trading stocks, you need to understand what a share is, right? You need to understand what dividends are. What is an earnings report? It's like diving into options. You need to understand what Greeks are. We are battling between two nodes right now. There is a seller node at 78 to 80 and a buyer node at 68 to 70. You've been waiting for both market technicals to agree. That's just providing lag to your trading for no reason. You don't need to do that. You're providing a lag to your setup or your entry that doesn't need to exist. Because you don't need to wait for MES to agree, because ES is already telling you what's happening. What you're basically doing is you're waiting for the arbitrage of the big boys to go into effect. And that arbitrage should be pretty damn fast. I mean, that's how they make their big money. If you can spot a massive arbitrage before it actually happens, then that's pretty easy money. If MES is breaking high of day and it's already up 5-10 points, and if ES is doing that, and MES is not following, then you're seeing a 5 to 10 point arbitrage that is not being fixed. And typically that's an easy 5 to 10 point trade. But that is extremely, extremely rare. If that happened a lot, that means that the big boys are brain dead and they're not making the easiest money they possibly can make. The little guys like us can't really compete in the arbitrage market. They have billions and billions of dollars into their algorithms, their high-frequency trading bots. They have much faster connections. It doesn't matter how fast your internet is. They're tied directly into the brokers, into the exchanges. There's almost no world where a retail trader should be able to arbitrage. Now, there used to be the case, if you guys were trading back in the crypto Wild Wild West days, keep it on VWAP here, it's 66, it's 73 on NASDAQ. There used to be a lot of arbitrage back in the crypto days because there weren't those big boys that had those big programs in play. I mean, the retail traders basically were the market makers. That's why they paid us to market make. So there were a lot of arbitrage opportunities in crypto. There kind of still is a little bit, but not as much. No, Trent, my settings have never changed. I've always used 2-point TPOs. We are just filling in a value gap right now. We had a ton of value in this area, a bunch of value up here. There was basically nothing in this area, and now we're filling it in. You had a little bit of pre-market value here, that's about it. But look at where we're ranging. It is perfectly inside this value gap. It is from this value high to this value low. So in between these two levels, there is no value. Well, there was no value. Now there is. So now we have this value here. So we're stuck between yesterday's value low and Thursday's value high. And it's damn near like to the tick. Like I said, if you guys don't like trading chop, if you don't like trading headlines, this is the week to take a vacation. It is probably going to be like this for the rest of the week. Well, thankfully, Thursday's a holiday, so we have one less day to deal with it. Tomorrow we have FOMC, then Friday we have rollover and options expiration. And I believe data as well. Let me see. Not really. Not really any data. Yeah, if you like the purely technical trading, this ain't the week for you. Rest of the summer, I don't know. I don't really agree with that sentiment. I know a lot of people have that sentiment that like the summer is bad trading. I think the summer is pretty good trading for me, to be honest. I like trading the summer. I hate trading like September, February, kind of like some fall months, some winter months. I honestly almost prefer to trade the summer most of the time. I mean, it completely depends on like what's going on, but I don't really agree with the sentiment that summer is bad trading. I think summer is pretty solid for my style, like the reversal style. It's probably bad for most people that are trying to trade like the standard breakouts. But that means it's good for me, so. I have to drop some damn near to the tick merch, yeah. Yeah, we do say that a lot, don't we? I always have a couple of things that I latch onto and I say more than I mean to. I try to catch myself from sounding like a broken record and saying the same thing all the time. I don't care too much about it, Trent. It's mostly just the alignment on what I'm trading. So I would want it to be following my trade idea on, like, say, ES, if I'm trading ES. But you definitely want to be, you want to understand why it's happening. So, like, if you're in like a vertical distribution and maybe ES is just nuking in delta, but NASDAQ is constantly ripping higher in delta, then you're probably not going to be in that vertical distribution for long. You're probably going to get um, a boost in delta on the buy side on ES, and it might turn more into like an uptrend. Or if they're both just absolutely nuking in delta, then you're probably not going to be in the vertical distribution anymore because of the downside. You might start going down and ripping back towards VWAP or something. But right now, you can kind of ignore the delta. We're in a rollover week. The delta is extremely hard to trust on a rollover week. No, I wouldn't say it's always going to add lag to your setup because delta is pretty fast. So if you're looking at delta on the, like, let's say the 1 minute ES and NASDAQ, it's not going to add too much lag. It's pretty quick. But I wouldn't pay attention to delta too much right now. The rollover week, the delta is pretty sloppy. I think it's pretty funny we're damn near pinned to that Wall Street Journal headline. Yeah, it kind of is cotton because it's on the you're looking at it on a continuous contract. So that value gap would probably not be there if you're looking at the exact contract. Not sure where this source is coming from, but it says Iran intends to invite foreign diplomats to visit the nuclear sites in an effort to prevent their bombing. But it sounds like tensions are coming down a little bit. We keep getting more and more headlines about like what it would take for a potential peace agreement. Like Israel just put out a headline earlier that said, let me see if I can find it. It was basically saying Israel wants guarantees about these Iranian proxies and that they won't continue to attack Israel. Yeah, there's more and more headlines coming out about like this potential peace talk, so we'll see how it goes. Doesn't seem like the market agrees with that. I think oil will be the telling sign if the war is like coming to an end or they're actually coming to a peace agreement, because oil should come back down very rapidly. And oil is currently going up. Oil is going to be more directly tied to these crisis headlines than the market is at this point. I don't think they mean right now, Alan. I think they mean like obviously if they came to a ceasefire or something. But I'm not sure. Apparently Trump's in the Situation Room. I haven't seen that headline. Here's a headline from Zero Hedge saying 2 ships were approached and hailed by Iranian small craft in the vicinity of the strait during the past 36 hours, the Joint Maritime Information Center said in a daily update. Which is probably causing oil to go up a little bit. Yeah, with the way the headlines have been going, I'm hoping that there will be some kind of ceasefire or peace agreement by next week. The end of next week is kind of what I'm looking for in my head. I think either way, like I said earlier, if there's not a peace agreement, I don't think the market's going to be tied directly to it by the end of next week. Like if once next week is finalized, after that, it won't be so tied to it. That's just what happens with the market in these conflicts. You typically have a couple of weeks and then it doesn't care as much. Hey, Olive, have a good day, man. We'll see you tomorrow. The market will obviously still react to the big headlines, like if the US gets involved or they start attacking ships in the Persian Gulf, stuff like that. But like the little back and forth headlines, the market's not going to care. I mean, it kind of already doesn't care. It's not caring right now at all. The market's playing a waiting game for another big headline or the FOMC. This is what happens when the market is tied so aggressively to headlines, and then there's like a slow headline day. The market doesn't know what to do. It's like, okay, now what do we do? We have nothing else to base our movement on. Daily volume is very low. The daily volume is pretty good, I think. I think the volume on, I mean, it's probably lower than like the past couple of days we had massive headlines. But this is pretty solid. 105,000, 70,000. We do have a little bit of the rollover that's hurting the volume, right? You still have some people trading the old contract. The volume is abysmal on the old contract. If you guys are still on the what is it, the M contract? Here's VWAP to the tick. Session VWAP to the tick on ES, a little bit lower on NASDAQ. Yeah, if you're looking at it as a whole, like you said, the daily volume, if you're using the pre-market as well, it's probably a little low. But I typically only look at the candles that are starting from 9:30, and this is pretty good. It's not bad. Keep forgetting to lock these. I keep dragging them around. Yeah, I'd say our cash volume is pretty good. Man, what a daily range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got 10 TPOs on our initial balance. But yeah, the volume should pick up after Friday once the rollover is done. We are less than 100 subs away from 20k subs. Appreciate you guys all supporting the channel recently. It's awesome. Yeah, Peace, I just felt like this is visually better than this. It's kind of just personal preference, but I don't know, I just feel like this is easier to see. The problem with this visualization is when you have pretty strong delta throughout the entire candle, it's much harder to visualize. Like it all kind of looks the same, which I guess is kind of the point. You could argue. But I don't know, like right here, so like look at this cluster for an example. So like this cluster right here at 68 to around 71 on our opening candle. It might be a little hard to see on stream, but on my screen, it's very easy to tell there is a ton of bullish delta coming in here. There's like a bunch of these boxes, right? There's a lot of these clusters coming in. If I go to this screen, I can still kind of see that, but it kind of blends in with the rest of the candle. So it doesn't seem as prominent on this candle compared to this candle. By the way, we're just bouncing off VWAP here, nothing crazy. But yeah, it's kind of just personal preference. It might look a little bit sloppier on your guys' screen, obviously like on the stream, with all these like boxes and whatnot. It does look a little sloppy, I will say. I've tried my best to clean it up. But I think it is still it's still better than this. But yeah, it's just personal preference for the most part. The volume profiles are going to be the same on the continuous contract and on the new contract. As long as the continuous contract has rolled over, they are exactly the same. The continuous contract, all that it's doing is it's showing you the upfront contract, but it's putting them all on the same chart instead of constantly having to change charts. Zakaria, it's completely personal preference, man. I would recommend finding a couple of setups that you really like and stick to those instead of having like 50 setups, right? Yeah, the way that you trade those setups and what kind of setups they are is completely up to you. By the way, I didn't notice this until now, unfortunately, but this is a bull div. I noticed the VWAP bounce. That's what I was looking at. I was watching VWAP. I'm not really watching Delta right now. Like I said, it's a rollover week. But if you were watching Delta, there is a decent bull div there. But yeah, there's the VWAP to the exact tick. Keep an eye on the EMAs here trying to break out of balance again. So we need to stay above that 72 to 71 EMA. Chris, I'm always a fan of manual backtesting, even though it takes the longest. I like backtesting manually. Um, I do that because the backtester in TradingView, back in the day when I was heavily backtesting, was complete dog shit. Now, it might be better nowadays, but back in the day, the strategy tester on TradingView, it's just not very reliable. A lot of the numbers it comes up with, you're just like, I don't really understand how it's getting those numbers. A lot of the entries and exits are not exactly what you would want on your strategy. Sometimes it will even move the entries and exits around. Yeah, all in all, I just prefer to do it manually. I think it's more accurate. I don't really backtest anymore, to be honest. If I ever want to test a strategy, I just live test it. I think live testing is the best way to do it, even if it's like on paper trading or on a Apex or like a funding account. I think you're better off just jumping into live testing. I think backtesting is much better if you're trying to build like a if you're trying to build like an indicator. And then you have to be very careful because it's called overfitting. You don't want to overfit your indicator to the prior market. A lot of green tape here, a lot of bullish delta at 73. Need to hold on to these EMAs to continue this climb. No, Scott, I don't really have like a course that I sell or that you could buy or anything like that. My YouTube is my course, right? You can take a look at my playlist on YouTube. I've got a ton of videos. I have them broken down into like different categories. I have like a order flow. I've got volume profile. I've got how to trade like standard concepts. But yeah, vast majority of my teaching material is completely free on YouTube. I have some exclusive teaching material that's only in Discord, but vast majority of it is on YouTube. I've been making teaching videos on YouTube for like 7 years now, I think it was. 6 or 7 years. So there's a lot of videos on there. Okay, back into that Wall Street Journal headline and that bearish delta that came before that headline. High 70s. We'll see if they can actually hold above this cluster here. Good faith, if you're talking about me personally, most of my trading can be summed up in the shift in momentum. I like to trade when momentum is shifting. A good example is this VWAP shift right here. We went from a lot of bearish momentum into bouncing off VWAP to the tick, and now we have a lot of bullish momentum. I like trading shifts in market structure, shifts in momentum. And I use all the tools that you're looking at and tools that you don't even see right now to do that. These are more rare, but here's an example I haven't shown you guys before. Here is a bull div on the longer term momentum on the Momo instead of the shorter term momentum. I think there's also a very small bull div on the short term. It looks like there is. More obvious on the long term there. So we have that lower low, but higher lows. I would typically recommend using the short-term momentum for divergence, like 9 out of 10 times. But the trend one, the higher, sorry, the longer momentum can have divergence. It's just much less common. Doesn't happen very often. No, I don't really look at stuff like that. I don't look at like the what's going on behind the smart money, like the CPAs and the COT and open interest, all that stuff. Not really my style. I don't think that stuff helps as much as people think it does for shorter term trading, like scalping and day trading. I think that's more of a swing trading type of thing. But like I always say, if it works, it works, right? Peace, I don't think it's that reliable, which is why I don't use it. If I thought it was really good, you would probably see it on my chart. I think bookmap and like level 2 liquidity and all that stuff, it definitely has its place in trading. But I think for most people, it just distracts them and it's more harm than good. But yeah, I definitely don't need it for my style of trading. I'm much more of a level 1 looking at what's going on right now, not what's on the level 2. Okay, keep an eye on these EMAs. We are breaking back above this bearish cluster. Let's see if we can hold above this bearish cluster, back above 79. There's also a bullish cluster here from 79 to 85. Yeah, the bots are always on my other monitor. You guys have to understand, I have 4 monitors, and one of them is an ultra-wide, so I damn near have 5 monitors. You guys are seeing 1 monitor. All of my indicators are pretty much at all times on this chart, the one above my monitor. I have a mounted ultra-wide that I put all my indicators on. Okay, yet again, failing to break out and hold above this Wall Street Journal cluster here. I keep saying the Wall Street Journal article. The reason I keep bringing it up is if you guys were trading yesterday, that was the point of origin of this entire impulse. So that article came out right here. There was a massive amount of bearish delta coming in below that article. And then above the article, we had a bunch of bullish delta coming in. And then we started shooting up, right? So that's why I keep bringing up that article. That was the impulse point, the point of origin. And you can see today is heavily respecting that point. Forex Factory is not really a news site. Forex Factory is an economic data site. For news, you would have to go to like Twitter or like Financial Juice or anything like that. Here, I can turn my newsfeed on. I forgot I didn't have it on. Here you go. My Twitter newsfeed will pop up on screen. There's not really anything to look at right now on the newsfeed. Looks like Iran is having internet issues. I saw that Elon was sending Starlink over there, I believe. Iran is imposing strict limitations on internet access throughout the nation. If I had to guess, it's probably due to the evacuations that are happening, mostly because of the Trump statement yesterday. I saw some videos that people were posting earlier today, and Tehran looks like a ghost town now. But I'm sure they could have just found like quiet streets and did that. You never know. It's the fog of war. Yeah, it looked like the evacuations were pretty severe. Pakistan closed its borders. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. U.S. forces pulling out of 2 bases located in northeastern Syria. Most likely just being rerouted somewhere else. Israeli minister said, "We do not believe the mission in Iran should be prolonged." Right back into rotation. Lower rotation goes down to about 65 to 66. How's oil doing? Still slowly grinding higher. Very common to see this on a Tuesday before the FOMC. Just kind of finding a value that we like and just chopping out. Do any of you guys actually think there's going to be a rate surprise tomorrow, or do you think that article's bullshit? No shot. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Rotation is nearly complete. It's looking for around mid 60s here. Also, watch that VWAP. It's 67. Well, Techie, we're already watching that level anyway because it's the rollover. It's the rollover level. So that is our main downside target anyway. Yeah, on the session profile, we might be failing to rotate. It's one of those days where the cash profile is so small. Like we have 76 to it's a 10-point range basically. So we have such a small value area that it's rotating the cash instead of the full session. Stalling on the POC here a little bit. Needs a few more points to finish that rotation down. Okay, here's VWAP. This is also finishing that cash rotation down. I believe the full session is a little bit lower. Let me double check here. It is 61, so it needs about 5 to 6 more points here if it wants to be a full session rotation. And that would be low of day, I believe. What did I say it was? I already forgot. 62. It would just barely be above low of day. This massive bullish node that we started at 9:30 has been protecting all of these candles the entire day. It looks like it might finally be broken here. Keep an eye on those 30-minute lows. We're right on the open now. Israel Minister of Strategic Affairs says the mission in Iran is nearly complete. Session VWAP to the tick on NASDAQ holding here. They even double tapped it, turning into a 30-minute sweep of all these candles that were being protected earlier. So it seems like those buyers are still here. They did let it break a little bit. But you have a very strong reaction to that level. Israel saying within 2 weeks at most. didn't rush to say 2 weeks a couple years ago. I'm not sure. I'm sure people didn't expect it to still be going on. That's for sure. Oil dropping, yeah, that headline's definitely good for oil. Well, good for oil to come down, I should say. Oil's kind of an inverse market, right? Good is it going down, bad is it going up. Oil going up is pretty much bad for everything. Iran keeps claiming that they shot down Israeli aircraft, but there's no backing to this. I want to see videos. I want to see pictures, right? Especially if they're F-35s, because F-35s have never been shot down. And that would definitely impact Lockheed Martin's stock. What was the headline that made oil drop? They said that they want the war to be over in less than 2 weeks. The army will complete the mission in Iran within 2 weeks. The statement from JD Vance seems like it could be taken as an escalation. Possibly the US using their bunker buster bombs to take out the facilities. Because Israel is basically claiming that they've done as much damage as they can. Because a lot of these facilities are like underground, right? And they're claiming they do not have the means to finish destroying them. They need the B2 bombs, the bunker buster bombs from the B2. I think the US is debating on whether or not they want to do that. That's what people thought was going to happen yesterday, because yesterday we kept getting those headlines talking about Trump leaving the G7, going back to Washington. People thought that he was going to order those strikes. If that happens, then oil will probably shoot up. So keep an eye on that. That one's going to be hard to trade because it's a massive escalation that the US is getting directly involved. But then you also could argue that you're getting closer to the end. Like the end of the conflict would be approaching much faster if the US got involved that way. So it would be kind of like a contradictory headline. It would want oil to go up because of the escalation, but go down because of the duration. So that would be a hard one. New wave of missiles being launched. Like I said, this is just a wait and see type of day. The market is just waiting on either a major headline or the FOMC. They just found value they like. They like the 70s. They like the 80s. And we are just chilling on that value. All right, new wave of missiles, they say. Last one was only like 5 missiles. So I'm not sure if this is like an actual attack or if they're still just probing. Usually it takes anywhere from like 5 to 15 minutes for those other headlines to start coming out, the sirens, the interceptions if they're landing. Still basically have no directional bias. You could argue that based on the full session, you are still slightly bearish bias with that lowercase b. 30-minute candle's not really giving you a bias here. The value area is not really giving you a bias on the cash profile. You are slightly bottom heavy, very slightly. So tomorrow, for you guys that are new to my channel, I typically stream the FOMC. So we're going to stream in the morning, same thing that we do every morning. And then after the morning stream, we come back for the FOMC, typically around 2 p.m. I typically start like 5 to 10 minutes before the FOMC comes out. And then we stream for the press conference as well. Then once the press conference is over, typically around like 3 to 3:30, then we call it a stream. But yeah, we'll have 2 streams tomorrow. We'll have a morning stream and an FOMC afternoon stream. But all right, guys, with that, we are going to call it. I appreciate you being here. I know today was very boring, not really a whole lot going on. Today is definitely a wait and see kind of day. The market is waiting for a major headline or some major, some data, kind of like the FOMC, right? So it might be like this all day unless there's some big headlines coming out. It's probably going to be glued to this POC, this value area, for most of the day. Just keep an eye on our trade plan. If you are in between our trade plan levels, like I always say, you're looking for a rotation. And then if we hold above that 82, we're looking for that value retrace of yesterday. Holding below 51, we're looking for that 24 level. And then on NASDAQ, pretty much the same story. NASDAQ is threatening to break out a little bit. You're kind of pressing into yesterday's value low. So if you stay above that value low, possibly pushing higher. And then if we push down, keep an eye on the value high of Thursday. Right now, we're kind of in that chop zone. Just rotating back and forth, rinse and repeat, right? But all right, guys, if you're new here, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. I do stream 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I will not be streaming Thursday because of the holiday this week. But I will be streaming tomorrow in the morning and in the FOMC, in the afternoon for the FOMC. If you guys want to support the channel, you can use code BREW, B-R-E-W, for Apex. I believe they still have their 80% off. If they don't, it will be 50% off. If you want to check out Addis or the Discord, the links are in the description below. If you guys are in Discord, I will be streaming there for the rest of the day. If you guys are not in Discord, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. There will probably be a recap today, so keep an eye out for that, possibly around like 5 to 6 o'clock later today. But all right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow.